Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. We're already in the second week of the current Grand Arena Championships, and this is the first match. Unfortunately for me, I had a setback in the last match, and my opponent was able to beat me due to my rampant inefficiency. You can watch that video anyways. There were a couple good, interesting wins on my side, if you ask me, and I learned a lot, but I definitely wanted to redeem myself in this round, and that's what my goal was. Unfortunately, going into it, I knew that my opponent had already won their match, rather their entire group, in the last round, just based off of the points that they had. They were really just doing a good job already, so I wasn't extremely thrilled that I had gotten this pull in my first match in this round, but I mean, you just gotta take what you got, what you're given. So my opponent is actually, they weren't like this huge amount of GP more than me. They didn't have way more gear than me. They did have like all my mods actually were even, right around the same, except they had almost 20 more speed mods at plus 20 than I did. So that's a pretty big advantage for them, if you ask me, unfortunately. So you just gotta deal with it, though. I don't really have much of a response other than that. One different element to this match that I haven't run into very much recently is that their Darth Revan was faster than mine, but their Badstila was slower than mine, which is workable. I just have to use a slightly different team composition. And as always, my opponent put Revan on defense, which I have yet to draw a conclusion from that. Like, does that mean that they feel so confident with their Padme team that they're able to clear my Revan, or does it mean that they just want to not have to play as many matches and we can just both ignore the Revan zone or whatever's behind the Revan zone? I'm not really sure, but I want to play to be able to win all of my matches, and so get the maximum points if I can. And so I always take Revan on offense. And I think in the next meta, whatever that is, whenever there's some kind of a strange counter to that, I think I am going to end up really investing in that for Grand Arena so that I can put my arena team on defense, but that's a story for another day. Now, I did change up my defense and offensive teams quite a bit since the last round. I've decided that I've put too many teams on offense and was not holding enough, was not putting enough on defense. And so I decided to try putting my Padme on defense, and my opponent only had gear 12 Nightsisters. None of them were gear 13. I decided it would be a good test for my mostly gear 12 Geonosians. One of them is gear, well, I guess two of them, because the Brood Alpha is gear 13, and they're all like okay modded. So I decided to try, and you need to have some kind of Nightsisters counter that isn't Jedi Knight Revan or Darth Revan, because those teams are going to be needed to counter General Grievous, and they're needed to counter other teams, Darth Revan, Padme perhaps, and so I just went for it. I watched a couple videos of this matchup beforehand. It's actually kind of hard to find good videos of it. But one thing that I did notice is that a few people had been clearing off protection off of Nightsisters before they really did anything else. And you also really want to wait until Talzin goes with her plague before you use the Brood Alpha's heal attack. I guess it is an attack because it calls everyone else to assist, but that's kind of what the strategy is to make sure that none of your Geonosians are just getting completely destroyed by plague. And that did work pretty well, actually. The only one unfortunate thing is right away Poggle died. Well, right away being relative. I felt like the match hadn't even started. No one had died yet. All of my Geonosians were starting to get stunned, which was worrisome, of course. And Poggle was down. I couldn't revive him or anything. and the Nightsisters were starting to stun everyone. Really, at this point, I was wondering if I was going to need to force reset and go the desperation route and try to take them out with like bounty hunters or something like that. Frankly, these Nightsisters weren't tremendously well modded. Like they were fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but they didn't have like enormous amounts of offense or anything. So, I kind of think I would have ended up folding pretty quickly to that sort of a thing, unfortunately. And so I was lucky that I was able to pull it out here. And what I'm doing here is there's this feat that we're given. We have to destroy 24 units with separatist guys. So I'm just killing zombie a million times in a row here just to make sure I'm getting 24 total kills in my one shot, because I'm not sure that I'm ever going to be taking my Geonosians away on offense again. Poggle just dying that quickly. I really think against Nightsisters, at least with Geonosians, you're gonna need to put you're gonna need more gear 13 on them. Like they just died so easily. The good news being that I did pull out the win somehow. I was watching the time here as close as possible just to make sure that I was going to be able to, get the win. I don't want to time them out and get a failed attack or something. So after I'd killed zombie a bunch, I realized that I hadn't even been counting, but that I really needed to make sure that Spirit was kind of on the brink of going down. So I hit her once or twice and then just went back to just destroying zombie. And really the other thing I was waiting for at this point was Brood Alpha has a healing ability, and I was waiting for that cooldown to go away so that he could just heal everyone, and then I could get full banners. I actually wasn't interested to see, because I have 5 total characters, even though one is summoned, would I get the full health and protection bonus for this, and even though I had lost a member, and the answer is no. Losing Poggle ended up costing me 3 points that I just couldn't ever get back. So 57, I'm still happy with that. I got a win, which is a huge deal for me with that squad, since that was the first time I'd ever tried it. And you can see here I got 24 24 kills with that one attack, and now I can just ignore that feat forever. Now, if you've been following this channel lately, or actually for a while, you'll know that my Phoenix have been used on and off again as a counter to Old Republic, and mostly I've been failing just because I feel like this is a matchup that you can't really practice. Like in Arena, if either of you put that team up, you're just both going to get destroyed right away, and so you can't really practice it. And frankly, that maybe it's a waste of crystals, I don't really know, but it seems a little bit frustrating to me, though, that we just can't really test this team at all. Anyways, I've been losing to these guys, and I don't think it's because Phoenix is a bad matchup for Old Republic. I know that they're fine. The problem is that I just didn't really know how. I think I've just been stuck on Ezra being the main counter for the team, and so that's obviously kind of a fail on my end. But one thing to note is that now I don't have Ezra on the team, and I did mess up right at the very start. I used Sabine's grenades, which is so fun. That Zeta is so fun. But what I should have done is put Armor Shred on Zalbar right away. And really, like, the only way you get past Zalbar, even with all your Zetas and everything on Phoenix, the way you get past Zalbar's protection and health, which is ridiculous, and their regeneration is ridiculous because of all the dots floating around. The way you get past it, though, is by putting Armor Shred on him. You just stack it, and you're always able to landed on him because he's taunting, and there was a chance right at the very start to put 1 stack on him, and instead I went with the grenade, which didn't really work out in my favor anyways, but I did it, and then the next time I could use Sabine's ability. Juhani was taunting and Zalbar wasn't. Like the one time that you want to attack Zalbar and you can't. So I'll do better next time, but in this case, you're able to get Zalbar stunned if you can. I've remodded all of the Phoenix guys, and I've put I put potency on Zeb. For a while I was putting offense because you want him to do a ton of damage, especially if you put his Zeta on him, but in the end, landing daze and stagger and stun is just too valuable, especially for what you're trying to do. I mean, Phoenix is definitely not like a damage per second, a DPS squad. They're more of a control squad, and trying to be resilient, trying to make sure that your squad is just going to win over time. It's not like you win in 30 seconds the way Darth Malak does. And so really, I mean, that's really at the end, that was the realization I had, was Ezra probably doesn't belong on it because that's the style of attacker he is. Like, he just wants to do damage, and the rest of them want to control things. So I ended up getting 60 banners here, just being careful, trying to make sure that Kanan was getting recharged, and 60 banners is the exact result that I was hoping for. So let's see what's in the back zone here. So bounty hunters, which are fast, they're so fast, and KRU as well, which is absolutely beatable. I have Jedi Training Ray, but first we need to make sure we're clearing the next zone. The next zone has a couple really difficult teams that are just not fun to try to counter, so I decided to go with Darth Revan first, and that's typically my very first matchup, to be honest, and I just wanted to get done with Geos first. So I did change my team composition here a little bit. Usually I run HK and Sith Marauder. This time I only took Sith Marauder. I left HK behind in favor of Sith Trooper, and that was just because I wanted to make sure that Jedi Revan, or Darth Revan, when he went, my opponent had a faster Darth Revan, he'd hit the pre-taunt on Sith Trooper, and Sith Trooper would get feared, and so would my Darth Revan, but then my Badstila, which is faster than their Badstila, would be able to get the corrupted battle meditation on everyone. And so that's exactly what happened. And then I've been playing kind of KG around fears. You see the HK and Malak both have fear on them, and that means that if fear stays on them, they're not going to be able to take a turn when their turn meter goes all the way up. And so I was able to kind of dance around my opponent's team a little bit. I got a really hard hit in early on with Sith Marauder, was able to take out my opponent's Badstila, which was super fun. Just like getting a one-shot on her is always super duper satisfying. And 57 banners in Malak versus Malak, or rather Revan versus Revan, though it really feels like Malak is the main determiner of that team, the main character. So 57 is a great result. I mean, you can really just get in the 40s if something goes crazy. I know that in my arena climb today, I don't think I would have even gotten close to that good of a result against any of my opponents in my arena climb. Though, to be fair, I also wasn't as intentionally picky about what guys I should use. So, a target. And really, I've come to kind of dread this Grievous matchup. I really don't enjoy it that much. There's just a lot that can go wrong really fast. I'm going back to Bastila. I'm trying Bastila with Hermit Yoda as support. And actually, I got Hermit Yoda up to gear 12, but it was like right after lock for Grand Arena had occurred, so he's gear 11. and I wasn't sure if that was going to impact anything. I figured that with Bastila lead, probably all that bonus protection was going to be good enough on him. So, you know, in this matchup, you always want to target B2 first. If you can take him out right away, then you can actually function, because otherwise you're hitting other droids and you keep hitting them, you're fast, you're doing damage, and B2 is going like every turn. He's clearing all your buffs, he's doing all this obnoxious stuff. And so, you know, the goal kind of is to just make sure that he's down, and then you're doing as many AoEs as you can after that, just to be knocking down B1 as often as you can. So really everything at this point is pretty good. Like all of my guys have lost most of their bonus protection, but we've already taken out 2 of the droids, and we're about to get the mass assist from Jedi Revan. And one thing that I was trying to do in this match that occurred to me is using Grandmaster Yoda's special there to reduce his turn meter, just because, you know, he's immune to doing things like stun and all these other buffs. He just kind of dispels through some game mechanic or other, and he doesn't have anything that really blocks turn meter reduction. And so if you can kind of just reduce it, you know, if you could play that game, if you could find a way to reduce it consistently, you could do pretty well against this team. As things stood, I was actually pretty pleased. I'm going to start trying to, once I take out 2 droids, I'm going to start trying to mark him at that point. It's hard to say if that's the smart move, or should we wait? Like, should we take out B1 as well and wait till there's only like Droidica or Nute or whoever it is left? But you know, that will all be revealed in time, I am sure. And with the new meta approaching, really, I mean, I don't really see Grievous being irrelevant anytime very soon. He just does too much damage. Like, at some point, maybe we'll have to start using him on offense or something. But right now, he's still pretty strong. So 58 banners against General Grievous. I was extremely pleased with that. I really don't like that matchup. I'm gonna try to get either Jolie or Jedi Revan up to gear 13 before the next round of Grand Arena Championships, just for that particular matchup. But in the back zone that my opponent had, they had not only a random weird Nute team, they also had clones. So we'd kind of approach that in a little bit, but the thing I was really focused on was, first I wanted to take out this Jango lead bounty hunters team. This is something I've been targeting specifically. It's been a side project for me for a while now, and my counter for it is troopers. The thing that makes this match so interesting is Bosk is 319 speed before or after the Jango lead bonus. Stark, however, I've gotten him up to gear 13. I've put some really stupid speed mods on him, and he's at 320 speed before the Veers plus 20. So he's like 21 speed faster than their Bosk, even though their Bosk is basically 320. The only other thing is all the other troopers are the same speed or lower speed. Like, they're so significantly lower in speed to the rest of compared to Stark, that I needed to have one other guy to be able to kind of boost them all up. So Range Trooper has actually gotten a considerable amount of gear as well. He's pretty close to gear 13. I don't think I'm gonna end up pushing him that far, but once you do that, though, it kind of just drags the slower speeds of the rest of the troopers up past the super speed bounty hunters. You can take out Boba because he's really easy to kill. He has low hit points and protection. And then once you kill him, everyone gets turn meter, and you can just ride that train till the end. I actually got some pretty bad RNG. I missed with my death mark against Bosk, so the match lasted about 5 seconds longer, and you know, it's always fun to see Bosk being torn down, so I got to miss that. So bad RNG indeed. Now, Jedi Training Rey is in a pretty interesting spot for me right now. There's a lot of, you know, I wanted to use her as a Geonosians counter potentially, and you know, I think that was fine. I think that Commander Luke is actually a better counter for Geonosians, and so she's kind of in a strange place in terms of like, where do I use her? You know, you can use her in the same old places. I just don't want to use her against these hyper speed Jango squads. You know, just for relatively obvious reasons. If you've been watching, like, I just don't get max banners with her. And this First Order match is like the perfect one for her. Like, if you could be guaranteed to face First Order every single time, just like it used to be in Grand Arena, like, I would just say, yeah, that's like her niche. But as it stands, like, I don't really trust her in any other matchup other than against First Order. So I'm going to be looking for other things. I'd like to try the all droid squad with her, you know, using like Imperial Probe Droid and T3 in there instead of Finn and Resistance Trooper. But I mean, it's not totally necessary, and I don't know if I really care to put all the Zetas and everything on to T3 at this point. You know, at some point I'd like to, but there's still a lot of Zetas I'd like to work on first, including clones. So you can see, like, I've just been controlling the battle the whole time, using stuns, using turn meter reduction, using daze, and the First Order barely got any turns. I did make one mistake against First Order trooper or officer. He got a turn. I should have just stunned him or finished him off, but and you know, and then he of course went and gave turn meter to someone else, and it kind of threw things off, but not too much. And then I was able to time it pretty perfectly here at the end. I got full banners because Finn used his plus 20% health and protection heal ability to get everyone all the way up. So relatively easy match here. This zone was the one I was a little bit more concerned about. One of the teams I'd never seen, another of the teams I'd you know about clones, but you don't really know about clones because they haven't been around long enough to be countered, really. But I did still have a Traya squad, and I had a Commander Luke squad, so I just had to choose which squad I wanted to use for what. And I also wanted to get the feat where you use undersized squads. We needed to get 2 battles in like that this time. So I was kind of forced to do it now because all my other matches I needed all of my other members. But Traya operates just fine as a trio, especially when you have Fracture available as well. So my goal here was just to keep Rex from using his crazy, like, Annihilate-esque ability, because he could do a lot of crazy things with it. Like, he could one-shot Traya, he could one-shot Nihilus, probably. So the goal here is just to kind of stall out and not do anything until I could annihilate Rex, and once Rex was taken out, then I could work on the rest of them. You know, so I put Fracture on Rex, and then I put Isolate on him to reduce his cooldowns further, though I don't actually know if the Isolate went on soon enough for that to happen. And then my hope was that eventually, like, if Rex was still alive, he would he'd get his Annihilate ability, and he would target Scion, and Scion would not actually be annihilated, because all Annihilate really is, like, what I'm talking about is he does like a huge crazy amount of max health percentage damage after after the cooldown wears off, and it doesn't like insta kill. So, you know, Scion would be fine because he's got his resurrection ability thing. So here you can see I've kind of set things up to make sure that once Rex dies, I can take out 5s like right away, right next, and so annihilate Rex, and 5s died in his place, which is crazy to me. I don't know how he saved Rex. Apparently that's the way the mechanics work, though, so keep that in mind. That was my strategy. I thought it was valid, but again, like, you just don't know what you're facing. You don't know what kind of things are going to happen, and so Rex is on the verge of dead anyways. I really wish I'd just known about that ability, frankly, interacting that way. It's probably online. I probably could have found it. I did look for some videos, and I could not find a single video of Traya fighting against clones with Rex as lead and Barriss, or really with Rex as lead, period. This whole squad is actually pretty good. It's got R2 in it, which is pretty random at first, you think, but he is buffing that whole squad in enormous ways. Like, not only is he making it hard to kill with the smoke, but he's also providing a ton of passive boosts for the squad. He's just giving them a lot. Like, I don't necessarily think he's amazing with clones specifically, but he's also not amazing. Like, I think he belongs with Jedi Training Rey at this point, and so clearly he didn't do his job here. I got 60 banners. That means that only one guy was not at full protection at the end, but clones, I think, are going to be managed okay by Traya, but that just makes one more squad that Traya counters that we're going to be demanding. She can't be everywhere. All it really guarantees, frankly, is that Traya is going to be on offense every time, probably, or everyone's just going to be taking her on offense because she counters all the teams. And really, I think I probably get her to 13 sooner than later. I took Commander Luke here with 3PO. I wasn't really sure what character I should take. I knew I was going to go undersized, and you have the front three, the obvious ones here. And then I just wasn't sure what I should take for the rest of them. I was debating. I could have taken L3 because she's got the auto taunt and all that. I ended up taking 3PO just because he helps them do extra damage, and that rat Nute was able to get a little bit of damage on me right as I was finishing. So I didn't get an extra banner, but I did get 60, which you hope that's enough. And my opponent had a ton of defenses. I saw that as one of their stats, and they had a ton of defenses in the first round, and luckily for me, I was able to go without them defending once. They did before I even got on. They one-shot my Nightsisters with 60 banners, and that's kind of unnerving, and then they just disappeared. But once I had gone to bed, I woke up. They had made all of their attacks. I had been full cleared, and I had won by 80 banners. So they clearly had some struggles. You can see Nightsisters, they had no problem with. Grievous, they had no problem with. I assumed those were Padme and Jedi Revan or something. My Padme team, they had no problem with. I don't know what they used. Maybe Emperor Palpatine or Traya. Clones, though, did end up getting a defense, and the Kira Nest team randomly got 2 extra defenses. So other than that, the rest of my teams got one shot, and actually I'd forgotten to put troopers on defense. I was going to experiment with that, so that'll be next time. Emperor Palpatine and Ewoks didn't get anything, but my opponent apparently dropped about 20 banners in addition to failing 3 times. They dropped 20 banners just on their offense in general. So it felt good to get that win, get the stink off of me for having lost that kind of embarrassing fight in round 3. Not that I played really poorly, but I obviously dropped a lot of banners. But I was just glad that I was able to get the win right away. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.